Hey guys, today we will look at a few things. We will create a storage account. We will create a VM, basically, and then we will change the size of the OS disk, and also we will add a data disk, and then we will see how to capture this VM. So let's just begin. So I've already created a resource group. Now I'm going to create a storage account. So we follow the standard steps. I'll give it a name. I keep this as standard and I select LRS because this is just for demonstration purpose. So I'm selecting locally redundant storage and I click create. The storage account has now been created. I go to the resource. I'll go to the containers. We first need to create a VM now. So let's go in. So we can see right now anyway that the container is empty. Let's go and create a VM now. So we select the group, resource group. We give it a name. So we give it a standard name like Windows. We keep the zone as region as East US. The server, these are fine. And select yes for this. Now we go to the next page, disks. We select standard HDD. We go to advanced because we have created a storage account and we want to create unmanaged disks. So then I go to network management actually, and I select off. I now create so it's all fine. I click on create. Okay, so the VM has been created now. Okay, so now let's go to the storage account and into the containers. I go into the containers. If I go into the VHD section, I can see one disk right now, which is the OS disk. This is a disk of the VM which we have created. Now we will change the size of this OS disk. So to do that, we need to first stop the virtual machine. So this needs to be remembered. To change the size of the OS disk, the VM, the virtual machine first needs to be stopped. Only then the size of the OS disk can be changed. So we do that. I have entered the VM now and I click stop. I click OK. The VM has been stopped now. Now what I'm going to do is I will go to the disk section. I will enter the disk and I will change the size. And I will save this. Okay, so the VM, the size of the disk has been amended. Now let's go ahead and check that. So we go to the VM. We go to the disk section. So we can see that the size of the OS disk has been changed now, and it shows over here that is 150 GB. Now, the next thing we are going to do is add an unmanaged disk, attach an unmanaged disk. This section, we will add a data disk. So I'll just give it some name. I'll call it Windows Unmanaged. I'll keep the source as the same. I'll keep the storage type as standard HDD. I'll change the size into 10 GB because this is only for demonstration purpose. Where it says storage container, I'll go and select the one from my storage account. So this is my storage account and the container is VHD because this is where my disks are. And I select OK. And I click Save. Right, so this has been now added. Now what I need to do is I go to the VM. I start the VM. Now I copy the IP address and I remotely log into the VM. I've remotely logged into the VM now. I'll now go to the command prompt. As we enter the command prompt, I'll type this command diskmanagement.msc, which is diskmgmt.msc. This will take me into the disk management console. So we have added a new disk, and that's what this is showing, disk 2. It's asking me to initialize. I keep this option MBR. I click OK. So I've initialized this disk. Now, if I go to my Azure portal, I go into the storage account, into my container, and into the VHD section, I'll see two disks over here. So we can see two disks. One is 150 GB, which is the OS disk, which was originally 127 GB, and which I resized to 150 GB. And then this is a second disk which we added, which is 10 GB. Now, there is one more thing which needs to be remembered, that you cannot capture a VM if it is using unmanaged disk. But we can migrate all our disks to managed disk if we want to capture the VM. So to do that, we go to the VM. We go to the disk section and we see this option over here, migrate to managed disks. So let's confirm one thing first of all. If we go into the VM right now, as you can see over here, you can't see the option to capture. So we cannot capture this VM. So we go to the disk section in the VM. We click here manage, migrate to managed disks, and we click migrate. Now the disks have been migrated. Now what I will do is I will again go to the virtual machine and I'll just confirm if I can see the capture option. So you can see now the capture option appears. So remember, if you want to capture a VM, you cannot capture if the VM has unmanaged disks. You have to migrate the disks to managed first, and then you can capture. And secondly, also you need to remember, if you are using a storage account, then by default the disks in the VM will be unmanaged, and hence you have to migrate them to be managed. So we have done those. Now we could, if we want, and this is quite optional, if we go to the storage account, we can delete both the disks. Those are unmanaged disks. We now have managed disks on this VM. So we could go to the storage account and delete both those disks, and this VM will still be running with the migrated managed disks. So we could try and do that. So for that, I'll go to the storage account. I'll go to the containers. I'll select both of them and I'll delete them. The disks have been deleted. We need to remember that the disks in the storage account will by default be unmanaged. So now we have deleted them. If you go to the VM, we will see that the VM is still running fine. We can see the capture option. So what we have done today is we created a storage account. We then created a VM. We need to remember that when we create a storage account, any disk which is a part of that is unmanaged, and that includes the disks of the VM which we create. We then changed the size of the OS disk, for which we always have to stop the machine first. We then added and attached an unmanaged disk, and then we saw how to capture a VM which has been created in a storage account. So hope this proves useful for you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.